I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to AfterBuzz TV and welcome to the Dave After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. If this is your first time to AfterBuzz, welcome. We're glad to have you. We are the ESPN of TV talk. We're a network of video podcasts that cover all your favorite TV shows, including Dave. I'm joined by the incomparably talented part of our breaking news team here at AfterBuzz TV, Ashley Dior Jones.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here.
So excited to have you.
Wild
This crazy episode. Ashley and I are cracking up. We've worked together for a fair amount of time, but this is our first time hosting together.
Yes, it is.
What a time to be alive. What an episode to cover.
Wow.
We're going to do it in just a minute. I got to quickly introduce myself, guys. My name is Jeff. Super excited to be here. Jeff Graham. I do a lot of after show hosting here. I produce for the network as well. I cover our Bachelor after show. Ooh, interesting question. For those of you guys who watch The Bachelor, which episode of TV was more uncomfortable? Tuesday's finale or this episode?
Good call.
Both brutal. But quickly, Ashley, do you have any experience with Lil Dicky?
Literally none.
Okay,
The only experience I have with Lil Dicky is the song he had with Chris Brown, which I loved.
I do Freaky
So,
Friday.
Yeah, it's such
Great
a
jam.
great jam.
Great jam.
That is like a hit.
Yeah, I'll have to show you some more of Lil Dicky's catalog because he's got some great
Yeah.
songs. Our producer Vito in the booth. Vito, you're a Lil Dicky fan as well?
I am a little Dicky fan.
Hey.
Yeah.
Not much of a fan of Freaky Friday though.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
It's got some interesting politics,
I
but
love everything about it.
he likes to push the envelope. Dave
Yeah, he
does,
does.
as we learned from this episode. We're doing a bit of a shorter show today, guys. Just obviously, it's been a surprisingly unpredictable time for Hollywood and for our office with COVID. So make sure you guys are washing your hands. But we're gonna just run a short show and just kind of cover the episode and then do some predictions. But I gotta start by asking Ashley overall thoughts on this episode. This is episode 3 we're covering. What did you think?
I was so uncomfortable from the first scene
I know.
with like the 2 young girls coming in and them showing. I was like, what am I watching?
Yeah.
What's happening? I was not expecting that at all. I
Yeah.
was like, can I watch this?
I
Like,
know,
and,
especially
like,
we both had to watch it at work.
yeah, we watched it here at work, and I can see people like looking over at me. I'm like, it's not porn, I swear. It's not
Close to it.
porn."
It was definitely very, very shocking TV. Did you think it was
Yes.
funny?
Parts.
Yeah.
But overall, I was mostly just uncomfortable.
I gotta
To
say,
be
yeah.
completely honest.
I think this show for me, I did find it really funny overall. I
Mm-hmm.
do think it towed the line between discomfort and humor. A lot of sort of 21st century prestige TV knows that it can push the envelope very, very far.
Right.
And knows that it will elicit big reactions from doing that. I mean, I think like this precedent, you could say it started with Oz on HBO, but even like, Lena Dunham's show Girls, I think
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
navigated that line, which is a show I love. But
Same.
I think I do understand what they were doing here. It was interesting to talk about like sexual humiliation through the male perspective because I think a lot of times this story is told through the lens of women.
Yeah.
And it's finally time in history that straight white men have their stories
Yeah.
told. But I actually, for the most part, thought it was a good episode of TV. I was impressed by their performances. But yeah, definitely like shockingly uncomfortable.
Shockingly.
So much of Dave's butt.
And so much of the fake butt, too.
Yeah,
I was like, what is that thing?
Yeah, I think I will say though, one thing I appreciate is I think TV will often incorporate sexuality in a way that doesn't necessarily seem like it needs to be there. A lot of times you just get these gratuitous sex scenes and they don't
For
always
what?
seem
Yeah.
necessary. But I do think this episode of TV, those scenes were important for us to understand the
Yes.
the dynamics between the two of them.
Yes. And I think it was amazing, like how supportive Allie was.
What a great character.
Like at the end, it's just like she's like, okay, this is what it is, but I love you anyway, and we can work through it. Like, how great is that? Like, I want to be that kind of girlfriend.
For sure.
You know?
But then again, it's almost like, is Dave giving her enough? Like, is Allie too generous of a
good-
girlfriend?
Possibly. Does little Dicky deserve?
That's a
Allie,
question.
You know,
We should save that for a topic. We'll
We
save that
should.
for the end of the episode.
it's a good call.
The 3 topics we're covering today, just so you guys know, we're going to talk about that crazy first scene. We're going to talk about Gata and Mike and sort of their journey as they develop a friendship, and sort of the boys in general. They had a funny scene at Umami Burger.
Yeah.
And then we're going to talk about Dave and Allie and their
Perfect.
their crazy sexual relationship. Let's talk about Dave and Allie first.
Okay.
I do think you're right. The crazy like sexual relationship that was explored between the two of them was really to show at the end of the day a sweet relationship, right?
Absolutely. Yes, 100%. I think in order for us to get to the end, we had to see what Dave was working with in a lot of ways. We had to see like what he was struggling with and why he didn't feel comfortable.
Right.
But man, they really gave us a lot of backstory, and I just wasn't expecting it, but I can appreciate it. I can appreciate it after, you know, seeing how it all came together.
Yeah.
You know?
How it all came together. Yeah. One thing I will say, I really appreciated both Dave Bird and I'm going to look up the actress who plays Allie because I want to give her a shout out. Their performances were great. This is not
Fantastic.
easy to do,
No,
you know?
absolutely not. I bet they were laughing and nervous. I bet
Oh my
like on
gosh.
set was just a wild time.
Taylor Misiak is her
Taylor
name.
Misiak.
Yeah,
Great
you'd
job,
have to
Taylor.
think if you're auditioning for this part, you hope that like FX executives are letting you know, like not only is this like a nudity role, but like there are some shows where it's like there's nudity, but whatever. But like the performances and what these actors were asked to do,
So explicit.
yeah,
Right?
and just uncomfortable.
Yeah,
you know,
just uncomfortable. Even like halfway through the episode, like the talking dirty, I was just like, ooh, like I really like this is weird.
it was
This is
weird.
This is
yeah.
like really, really odd, but you know, entertaining to watch nonetheless.
Definitely.
I mean, I definitely fell in love with Dave a little bit more.
For sure.
You know
You know
just
what? He
seeing
was
that
honest.
This is right. He's had this problem since he was a child, you know, and they finally made it through.
And you know, it
which
is
good.
important. So often, again, with stories like this, it's, you know, men are one-dimensional dudes that always love sex no matter what, and women are insecure. And for the show to
true.
flip the table was really interesting.
That's
I
a
think.
really good point. I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever seen an episode of TV where, you know, the man was more uncomfortable in a sexual situation than the female was.
Totally.
So this is kind of eye-opening. Maybe that's why it's so jarring to me.
Yeah.
Just because I haven't seen anything like it before.
Definitely. What was I going to ask? Something about it left my brain because I feel so uncomfortable about the episode. Do we think? Let's go back to the topic of does
Okay.
Dave deserve Allie? Is Allie too generous with him? Is he giving her enough?
I mean, I think from when you love someone, you just love them.
Mhm.
And, you know, I'm sure she loves way more about Dave than his penis size and his performance in bed.
Right.
But, you know, I mean, when you care about someone, you're willing to do whatever it is to keep the relationship going and fresh. And, you know, whatever you got to do, you're going to do.
It's just
And
interesting.
I applaud Allie for that.
I do applaud Allie for that. She's a great character. She's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
But I do wonder, like, have we seen enough from Dave to really convince us that he is, like, I mean, he's a thoughtful guy. He's sensitive, right?
He's
Yeah.
sensitive, and I think he's pretty smart, and I think he's pretty funny. Like,
He's
charming.
emotionally intelligent.
Yeah, he's a charming guy.
Yeah.
Like Dave's a cutie.
Would you date a rapper?
No. I
You don't
would
think
not
so?
date a rapper. No.
Fair
I mean,
enough.
because remember the whole scene where she went into the booth
Yeah.
and he said all those words and she tried to reenact it? Like, rap isn't real. Like, we can't really do those things. So,
Yeah.
no, too much pressure.
Too much pressure to
much
date a
pressure.
rapper.
Totally.
But what's interesting is the show kind of gets into the differences between the rapper and the person. You know, I think that's an interesting. I've never seen a show. Actually, Atlanta explores this
Ooh,
really well.
yeah.
But I think I like seeing TV that explores like the public persona versus the private persona because they're very different in this case.
They are very different. And it's just, I don't feel like it's a facade that Dave really puts on, but he really like amps everything up in his music. And,
Totally.
But I think that's what's charming and cute about him, you
Yeah.
know? And then I expect him to be a little bit more
Yeah.
when he gets home. 'Cause
Totally.
If he were like he is in his music, like that would be
A different show.
a different show.
Different show. This episode of TV would not exist.
Whoa. Could you imagine?
The one thing I thought was hilarious was during every one of these sex scenes, they kept cutting to the poster of Drake.
Yeah.
That was
That
hilarious.
incredible.
I will say that was like belly laughing
that
for
was
me.
really funny. And I love that Jake was staring like, how is that for you?
Totally. Well, I thought the show was going to address it in some capacity. Like, well, Drake's just, but the fact that the show didn't,
Incredible.
It's just so funny.
Just so funny. He was just there watching
Drake was
over
just
us,
there.
as he always is.
Dreezy. Okay, let's talk about Gata and Mike and just like the boys in general.
Cool.
Gata is a hilarious character.
He might be my favorite character.
Me too.
I think he's freaking awesome. He
So
brings
funny.
so much
He does.
to every episode by doing so like little.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if that's the right thing to say.
No, I
but
agree. Yeah.
he's freaking fantastic and funny,
Yeah.
man. Just because he's like so chill, like what's up, dude? But
Just so
Yeah.
weird. Like, yeah, it's hard to like get a grip on who his character is. Like his grill got taken by the busboy to
Right.
Umami Burger.
Right. But I mean, I feel like Gata is like a real LA guy.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I know guys like him that are
Totally.
just like chill, like this is life, we're gonna figure it out, but don't let them lose their grill. Like,
Totally. Like he's goofy
like
and
drama's
hard at the
coming.
same
Yeah,
time.
but he can do that.
Yeah.
He can do that because he's just Gata. You know,
Totally.
he's like, this is who it is. And
How about
take
that
it or leave
convenience
it.
store scene?
Wild.
So weird.
I bet that was so weird for what's the redhead guy's name?
Mike.
Mike.
Yeah.
Mike's was so freaking uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I would have been uncomfortable too.
Totally.
Like even like being a black person, like when that happens, it's still like, ee.
Yeah, the show is
Weird.
like, it's interesting because it's kind of like very subtly exploring race in that way. Or maybe I should more say it's exploring class. I think the show, I think it would be reductive to say the show is exploring racial politics. I think it's more zoomed in than that. Like I think
Yeah.
it's exploring class politics and class politics among race.
Yeah.
Because Els and Gata are our two, primary black characters, and in different, more boring, reductive versions of this show, they're the same character. They're both black dudes who work in the music industry.
Yep.
But in this show, they couldn't be more different.
Absolutely.
Which is really interesting.
It is, and it's great that Dave finally decided to showcase something like this.
Yeah.
Because like we are so different.
Totally.
And we have so many different,
You need to say there's
aspects
not
and
just
different-
one type of
I
black
know,
person,
it's
Ashley.
Wild.
I mean, but
Who knew?
for a century, that's what TV has told us, right?
Exactly.
So it's
we've got
important.
to applaud Dave for
Yeah.
showing the multifacets of black culture, which is
Definitely.
what it's done. It's pretty accurate too, if you ask me.
I hope the show touches too on how Dave is like, hopefully not appropriating black culture too. Like that'll be. I've heard in reviews that the show is going to address that. Like, there's no doubt that like hip hop is completely owed to the black community. So I hope the show doesn't shy away from the fact that inevitably, if you're a white guy in hip hop, you are borrowing from and potentially appropriating those influences.
Yeah. I personally don't feel that way with Dave just because he is so unassuming and he's just trying to express a part of himself.
Yeah,
so
it's
like
true.
a part of me isn't like, oh, he's appropriating the culture. He's just trying to like
He's
be
just doing
his
Dave.
he's just trying to be Dave,
Yeah.
and he's cool with it. And
He's
he's
cool,
got
yeah.
he's got some cool black friends. So, if he were doing wrong, Gata would tell it.
Gata would call him out. You're right.
he would definitely be called out for it. So,
Totally, that's a good point.
yeah.
This convenience store scene was so interesting. It was just interesting to see Mike be so shell shocked, and the show didn't say more beyond just giving us that moment,
Yep.
which again is pretty interesting.
Because sometimes it just happens like that.
Yeah.
Like sometimes stuff just hits the fan and you deal with it and,
Just move on.
just move on. Like
Yeah.
that's life, shit happens.
Shit happens.
Keep it moving.
Gosh, what a crazy episode of TV. It was also interesting. We touched on a little bit at the top, but they had this opening scene. The cold open was Dave as a teenager, sort of having his
girls.
two girls. I was like, okay, Dave.
When he's like 12.
Definitely
or
not
10.
my experience as a teenager coming into my own,
Same.
but yeah. But the thing that was interesting was, again, like how they positioned that first time experience to be mortifying from the male's perspective and how the parents got involved.
Yes.
Like, I think the show's kind of touching on like overbearing Jewish parents too. Like that was a very funny scene.
Yeah. And like the girls were very open and free with
I know.
what they were doing and they had each other to count on and it was very interesting. Like a completely different take
Yeah.
from anything we've ever seen.
That's a good point. Very
Wow.
unique. Very unique.
They were very like, okay, now your turn.
It's 2020, baby.
Bring it on.
2020.
I love it.
I also,
love
it was
it.
interesting to see Els. I didn't know Els and them were friends. I didn't know Els and Dave were friends when they were kids.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So that was interesting too. And I'll be interested to see if the show explores that more later down the road.
Yeah.
Atlanta, if you watch season 2, did a really interesting episode about that where we see Ern and, Paperboy's name. I can't think of it right now. It's been a while
it's
since
not
that season.
Paperboy?
Just whatever like his first name is.
Oh,
but
okay. I just remember his
we see them
Paperboy.
as teenagers. Actually, it might be Ern and his brother. It's been like a couple
Yeah, I
years
haven't
since I
watched
watched
it in
that
a while.
season, but it's you can see how Dave is borrowing from Atlanta. Like I
Yeah.
don't think
Oh,
the show would
absolutely.
exist without Atlanta, but it's doing its own thing.
Yeah.
Which I have to applaud because
Yeah.
inevitably, if you're making a like semi-autobiographical show about you as a rapper on FX, there's no way you won't get compared to Atlanta. So
100%.
By the way, Vito in the booth
Yeah.
here, it is Mitch Charles Johnson, also known as Paperboy.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Wow.
anything else about the
What?
episode you want
I
to talk
mean,
about?
just
Milking, maybe? or-
Milk. Didn't know that was a thing.
Didn't either.
But hello.
But hi, Milking.
Hi, Milking. We're here. But
You know.
the fact that Allie went and like got a board and like cut a hole out.
It was sweet.
I mean, this lady.
Quite a gesture.
She really loves this guy. And I love how they came together at the end. Like, I'm a sucker for a good love story.
You're right.
And I honestly wasn't expecting that from this show, you know, but
Totally.
I appreciate their chemistry and their working together. And,
Yeah.
you know, you did this for me last night. I'm going to do this for you tonight.
how it
That's
works,
the kind
man.
of relationship you need.
It's true. It's give and take.
Give and take.
Give and take.
Love.
Cool.
Ugh,
Well,
wild.
wild episode of TV. At this point, we're going to make some predictions about the rest of the season.
AfterBuzz
goodness.
TV predictions.
They didn't give us much in the little preview for next episode.
Yeah,
With
no.
comedy, inevitably, it's kind of like how much can you really tease?
Mm-hmm.
I continue to believe that we will get additional jokes about Dave's semi-dysfunctional penis.
Yep. I think that's a
It's a staple of the
yep,
show.
Absolutely.
I kind of want to see Allie push back because Dave's a sweetheart, but I don't think he's a great boyfriend. And Allie deserves to get hers, I think, you know?
Yeah.
I guess
she
maybe
does.
now she is.
Yeah.
Um,
I could see that. I
yeah.
mean, gosh, but I adore Dave. You're right. He's not the greatest boyfriend, but
Yeah.
he's just so darn cute. And,
Yeah.
and he tries so hard. And, you know, he just is who he is.
He
You
tries
can't-
hard.
You can't, like, knock that.
Yeah, you can't knock that.
He's freaking adorable.
anything you want to see in the rest of the season? Anything you're predicting?
But next week, I really want to hear more music.
Yeah, you're
Like,
right. Me too.
episode 1, I just that verse he spit, I was just like, whoa,
was a dope
where
scene.
did that come from? Like,
Yeah.
I wish this episode had more rap.
Yeah.
Like more like jams and tunes. So hopefully next week I'll get to see a little bit more of that or hear a little bit more of that.
Now that he's comfortable with himself, he can
Yeah.
continue to rap.
Yeah, let's get back to work, Dave.
Let's get back to work, Dave. Well, actually, this was fun.
This was fun.
That was more harmless than I thought it was going to
Me
be.
too. I was nervous.
We were both like, well, here we go. First after show together.
what are you gonna do?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into our Dave After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. If you are listening on the podcast, we thank you.
Yes, thank you.
It helps us so much if you guys hop on Apple Podcasts and give us those 5 stars. What 5 stars review do is they actually boost the visibility of our podcast. And here at AfterBuzz, we are passionate TV fans. We love TV just as much as you, and we bring it to you for free. So it's the least you can do to just give us those 5 stars. If you're on YouTube, hit that like button. We really appreciate it. And just all the support you guys give us helps us continue to be the ESPN of TV Talk. And my name is Jeff Graham. You can find me on Twitter at Jeffrey C. Graham. Wash your hands.
Ashley Dior Jones on all social platforms. Take care of yourselves. Be safe.
And we'll
I
see you
love you
guys
guys.
next week here on the Dave After Show. And Carla, we miss you. We'll see you soon.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.